we will move on to the next slide for our land acknowledgement. So before any presentation at Royal Roads, we always like to acknowledge the lands that we're on. So our campus is located on the traditional lands of the Kosepsum and the Lekwungen ancestors and families. And we're really grateful to be able to do the work that we do on these lands. And many of us are working from home in many different locations right now. So just want to take a moment for us all to recognize the lands that we're on today. And with that, we'll start our session. So my name is Christy Jones and I'm an education advisor at the university, but I'm very happy to be passing off the reins here for the rest of the session to Dr. Eugene Thomlinson, who's an associate professor and the school director for the School of Tourism and Hospitality. We're really thrilled for you to be joining us today. Over to you, Eugene.
And thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. I'm not sure who was here yesterday, but in yesterday's session, we talked a little bit about the possibilities or what's available through the School of Tourism and Hospitality, both at the undergraduate and the graduate level. And yesterday I gave a bit of a teaser about where the industry is going and things like that. And some of you, looking at tourism and hospitality might be thinking that, where are these opportunities going to be? Why would I want to enter tourism and hospitality when right now we're looking at an industry that potentially it has a few issues or, a few things going on. So I guess today I wanted to talk to you a bit about where are those possibilities? How can I possibly be excited about going into an industry that we've seen such a downturn during COVID? And I guess as maybe a quick spoiler, the future is bright, that there are going to be a lot of opportunities and the markets are opening up. And as we watch the markets open up across the world, we're seeing a huge amount of growth. But I'll just want to start off with a short video about, why travel, about, I guess, making a difference through travel. So I'll very quickly pass it to Christy to run this video.
What does travel mean to you? Exploring the world? Creating memories? Meeting new people? Disconnecting from it all? But what about making a difference? Because our travels mean so much more than we realize. And those memories we've created together in travel, they're even better than we thought. Remember that restaurant where you'd never felt so full? Know that when you paid your bill, you helped feed your waiter's family of 4. And that time you stared open-mouthed at that incredible dance. You maintained jobs that keep important cultures and traditions alive. Travel is not just life-changing. Travel is world-changing too. That photo you took on safari, the one that hit new levels of likes, your trip supported the tireless fight against the illegal wildlife trade. Remember that spontaneous city break? It helped maintain schools in the local area. And your tour guide, the one who made you laugh so much, she is one of millions of women employed in a sector leading in gender equality. Remember how you made a difference when you traveled? Remember how much your travels meant to others. Now, just think of all the good you can do in the future. Travel the world. Make a world of difference.
All right. So just a reminder to go back through. So that video, I guess, gives you a little bit of a sense of where I see travel and tourism heading, where it is right now, some of the hope and the expectations. That video was put out or was created by the World Travel and Tourism Council, and they just wrapped up an international conference down in Cancun about a week ago. So it gives you an idea of a bit of a sense of, the potential for tourism and hospitality. So when we start looking at tourism and hospitality, looking across the global market, what we're seeing already is that any of the markets that are starting to open up, if you want to think about places like Australia and New Zealand, even places across the United States that maybe shouldn't be opening up quite so soon, but they are for sure. We're finding that the industry is just exploding. Recently, I was talking to a human resource manager for Marriott North America, and she was telling me that across the United States, in the markets that she was working in, there was actually a hiring frenzy. So people were competing for good, talented work. And the other aspect of that we're seeing across tourism and hospitality that she mentioned is, because of COVID, we're finding that a lot of people that were nearing retirement, that were, getting near the end of their tourism and hospitality careers, have decided to actually bow out of the market. So they're starting to retire, your boomers, people like that. And again, so what this has done is this is creating openings across the industry globally. As well, this morning on a conference talking about China, we were talking about the growth in that market. And at one point, to give you an example of how the Chinese tourism and hospitality market is growing, they're expecting, as a very quick example, almost a doubling of people that are going to be involved in skiing and the ski industry as China puts more attention towards they're developing a domestic ski industry. So the more that we look around the industry, around the world, we can see that the opportunities will be there, that people will need to hire skilled people. And this is where, coming to school, studying at the School of Tourism and Hospitality Management, that's where you start to get that leg up and that better understanding of how to do it right, how to work in the industry so that you can make a difference. And that's, again, one of the things that we focus on at the university, but specifically in the School of Tourism and Hospitality Management. The idea around sustainability. How do we build an industry and rebuild an industry, but rebuild it in the right way? Getting people interested in not going back to the way the industry was, but really creating the industry, the sector that we want tourism and hospitality to be. As you saw in that video, tourism and hospitality already has a huge positive potential impact around the world. I guess one of the things that we discovered through all of the lockdown and everything from COVID and the downturn because of COVID was all of the areas that tourism and hospitality was making a difference. Animals that were being protected by the tourism and hospitality industry suddenly becoming vulnerable to poachers and things like that. That gender equity, or even beyond gender equity of tourism and hospitality, when the industry was impacted, they talk about a recession or a she-cession where more women were impacted by COVID than males. So as the industry comes back, as we start to rebuild again, we'll see all of those jobs coming up and that equity and the gender equity coming through. And some of the things that, to give you an idea of where the industry is going and how quickly it's growing, you can see this is just a bit of a snapshot. This was gathered, you can see, from the 13th of December to the 27th of December of this past year. And these maps kind of indicate this growth in searching for ideas about tourism and some of the bookings that are starting to occur. So you can see, 13th of December, the world, at least areas where they've got data, Google data, taking a look at, how quiet it was looking for ideas around travel and tourism, up until, just 2 weeks later, the world going green as far as looking towards travel ideas and places to go. Oh, and before I go any further, if you have any questions, please pop them into the chat box. I'll try to answer them as we go. If I miss your question, I apologize, but I'll try to address all of your questions and, as best as I can. So here's some of the different things to be thinking about as we emerge from COVID-19. That you're already looking at for example, the study in the US, where people are starting to rethink where they're going to. Because of COVID and this sort of forced staying home of people in the industry, what we're discovering is that people are starting to rethink where they want to choose as a destination. So wanting to get out, get away from the cities, get away from those sort of crowded situations, and really starting to visit some of the smaller, more intimate locations. The length of stay, people wanting to slow down tourism, spend a little bit longer, have more real and authentic experiences. Looking at, of course, health and safety. With COVID, it's really brought that perspective about health and safety to the forefront. And so there's going to be likely a bit of a hangover effect from all of this safety and security and cleanliness from COVID, where people are a little bit more aware about how well things have been cleaned, and safety and their health aspects of the industry. As I mentioned, also the environment has been a bit of a focus on the rebuild, and as the industry starts to move towards protecting the environment, a real understanding of how tourism and hospitality does have an impact on carbon dioxide and the sort of climate impact. So again, really encouraging people to think more locally, to think about slowing down, to take more environmentally friendly means of transportation, or at a minimum, looking at things like carbon offsets. So what you're likely to see, and as opportunities within the industry, are going to be those more sustainable jobs, those opportunities to try to protect the environment and to see how we can move that perspective from these sort of mass tourism expectations down to that slower, more spread out role towards tourism and hospitality. Really want to, I guess, highlight on this last edge here. Just do a very quick to show you this element here about the reemployment and this realization that there's going to be a real need for, again, reskilling and for getting people. And this is why education is going to be so critical to get people understanding that tourism and hospitality is very much a skilled aspect and a skilled labor opportunity. A few other things that are, I guess, call them holdovers or hangovers from tourism and hospitality is this expectation of remote work. As people have, shifted to working from home, and, as a very quick example, we've been off campus now more or less, or I've been off campus since March of last year, so over a year. The industry is starting to pick up on that opportunity for remote work. So if you're kind of following different stories about tourism and hospitality, some destinations are actually opening up where they are creating opportunities for people to remotely work from various destinations. So places like Bermuda and the Bahamas, where you can get a, call it, working remote visa, where you can actually work for an entire year on this special visa. So there's going to be opportunities there within the industry. Definitely covering a lot of the gaps in the skills that are occurring, which really ties in nicely to some of the opportunities around the world and some of the places where people can go with the industry. This gives you an idea of within tourism and hospitality, within the school. These are just some of the places where people have done their internships in the past. So gives you a bit of a sense of when you come into the school, there are a couple of opportunities where you will be doing internships after your years 3 and 4, the possibility of an international internship. And with the MATM, or the Master of Arts in Tourism Management program, again, where you can do your internship pretty much anywhere around the world. And we really encourage that as well. Right now, the Canadian government is also trying to encourage people to, and specifically Canadians, but trying to encourage people to get out and explore the world. This morning, again, talking to somebody from Universities Canada, they mentioned that only about 3% of Canadian students or Canadians go abroad for their education. So the Canadian government is starting to develop different programs, different opportunities to really encourage Canadians to study abroad. And through Royal Roads University, we've got several agreements where you can spend a semester at several of our partners across the world. Just wanted to, I guess, highlight some of the possible places that you can go with a tourism and hospitality degree. Quite often when people are thinking tourism and hospitality, they might immediately think of, just your typical places like hotels and restaurants and things like that. But as you can see from this just, representative list, the possibilities for you to go places in tourism and hospitality are, are global and are phenomenal. Not only do we cover those typical, hotels and restaurants, but we're also talking about things like destination management organizations, the things like, Tourism New Zealand or Destination Canada, your local tourism boards, things like that. All of your event management organizations. So when you think about a music festival, somebody needed to organize that festival. They need to do the planning for it, the marketing of it, the organizing, getting everyone together. That's another area of where you can go with your tourism and hospitality. Uh, as a related aside, I actually had the opportunity pre-COVID to do research on music festivals and events, and we were exploring just the economic impact and the social impact that music festivals can have on a local community, with the realization that for some small communities, that one event can actually create and generate more revenue and more interest in a community than many of the other activities throughout the rest of the year. Again, things like casinos and museums. Those of you that have been to Victoria or know about Victoria, the Royal BC Museum is a fantastic place to visit. And again, an opportunity, if you're in tourism and hospitality management, to manage and help and to work in all the sort of frontline aspects of working with people, but there's also all of the what we call the back of the house opportunities, all of the things that people don't generally get to see that really go into running a business, running an organization. So, and through tourism and hospitality management, through the degrees at Royal Roads, you get not only that focus on tourism and hospitality, but you also get all of those key business skills. So, while we're talking to you about running that event, you're also learning about finance, you're learning about human resources, you're learning about the marketing, you're learning about multicultural management. So, you're getting all of those key business skills, but you're getting them with that flavor of tourism and hospitality. To just very quickly give you kind of some personal stories, I've been working in tourism and hospitality now since I was 15, so 1 or 2 years. And what it's afforded me, what it's allowed me to do is I've been able to work in some of the most unbelievable places across Canada and around the world, where you really look forward to going into work every day. I remember one time working in Banff, and I stopped for a moment what I was doing. I kind of looked around me with the majestic mountains all around, and thought to myself, this is my office. This is where I work. So, lots of possibilities there. Just wanted to highlight, I guess, some of the places where our students have gone. So on this slide, a few examples from the BA in Global Tourism Management. We've got everything from people working in transportation, things like Wilson's Transportation or WestJet, one of the airlines across Canada, to community societies like the Sandspit Community Society up on the Queen Charlotte of Haida Gwaii. The Peddler, which is a bicycle tour company. We've got people working at ski resorts and economic development centers, and of course, going into the hotels as well. And, oh. for the hotel management graduates, quite often the hotel management students are a little more focused, a little more directed towards the hospitality industry, but you can see kind of the range of different places, both locally and across, in this case, across Canada. But we also have students going around the world. We've got a student right now who started up her own web presence, and she's based out of London, England. We've got other students in, across China and India and various other places around the world. So, again, lots of opportunities. And the nice thing for those of you thinking about joining Royal Roads to take the tourism or hospitality degrees are that we've got all of these graduates now that are out there that are starting to come back to us when they need to hire people. So when they're looking for, that next frontline person, when they're looking for that next manager, they come to us because they know the system and they know the quality of the people that we create. Before I go on to the slide, I just wanted to take a look at the question about corporate travel and MICE look post-COVID and the Zoom calls. It's interesting, to have that question, and there's been some, I guess, concern or question about what will tourism and hospitality look like, with people doing Zoom calls and things like that. And it's interesting to see, especially in those markets, again, that are starting to open up, that instead of replacing travel, what we're finding more is that this virtual visits and things like that are actually enhancing some of these fairs and some of this corporate travel. So, there's still people that will go to these different conferences, different corporate visits, but instead of, you going, oh, I can't visit, so I'm not going to attend that conference or not going to attend that event. It's, well, okay, I can't physically go there, but I'm going to go into it virtually. So it's actually, we're finding that it's opening more doors than it is closing them. Which has been, really good for us to see, because there is still going to be that interest or that need for the personal contact, for those, one-on-one sit-down chats, which, many of you, I'm sure, are finding that it just can't be replaced by a Zoom call, by this digital version of you. But there's definitely been a bit of a, call it a rationalization, where people, instead of, immediately thinking about hopping on a plane and flying somewhere, they will stop and think and go, okay, do I need to physically be there, or can I just go through a virtual call? So, great question. Here's where some of our Master of Arts in Tourism Management graduates have ended up. Again, places like, Tourism Kamloops, a destination management organization. We've even had students go from taking a degree into other areas and other fields, such as one student going into Royal Bank of Canada as a manager there. Because we find that tourism and hospitality gives you such a fantastic basis in customer service and dealing with people, that some of these other industries that are also very service oriented and customer facing, they get a terrific experience with that. We have educators that come in. We have people who are now teaching at various colleges and universities around the world that have come into our program. Again, transportation, Fairmont, and people like Jason Alsop in the bottom left-hand corner, who's one of the leaders of the Haida Nation up in Guayhanas. So quite a range of possible places where people have gone to, where people end up uh, after they've completed their degrees. In many respects, what we're trying to do is we're trying to just set you up with all of the broad skills and experiences and networking so that we're opening doors where you can go in almost any direction that your heart might desire. So, I guess to kind of wrap things up, and we'll have some time for some questions, but just wanted to give you, I guess, a little more sense of why travel and tourism is such a passion for me, and hopefully for all of the rest of you, and give you a bit of a sense of why there's been such this pent up demand that I was mentioning in the market. All of these people who have been stuck at home this past while, staring at their computer screens or, with their family, and remembering, why we travel and what's important, so critical to this kind of human spirit to travel. So again, let Christy roll this video.
What is travel? Travel is a community. It is a collection of unparalleled experiences. It is everything from breathtaking natural wonders to sensory discovery, cultural exploration to incredible encounters with incredible people. Travel connects us. It challenges us. It is total relaxation to pure adrenaline. It is shared time to solo adventure. Travel gives us lifelong memories and the most amazing stories to tell. We cannot travel right now. Our health and safety is paramount. But even when we have to stay apart, travel can still bring us closer. So, from homes all around the world, let's keep the spark alive together. Join us as we gather together in travel and celebrate what travel means to each of us. Share your stories, your most prized memories, or greatest adventures. Your favorite images, videos, or the songs you've heard. Inspire and help others. Fuel their bucket lists and let them grow yours. Make us laugh or cry. Make our jaws drop or eyes widen. Let us support one another in this time. Keep the flame of travel burning and wanderlust alive. Because travel is a community, and that is how communities thrive.
So, yeah, that's why I guess we all feel this need, this desire to get back out and explore the world. And as I've said a few times, we're probably going to see a change in how the industry, and in some respects, I hope that we see a change in how the industry operates. That we'll probably see a change in this understanding of why travel and tourism is important and how we should be doing it better. But it's going to be because we have a better understanding of tourism. It's because we have that perspective that can be brought through education, through understanding, through research, that we'll be able to make a much better tourism and hospitality industry, and also to prepare for future events, to really think about how our industry plays a role in climate change and sustainability that we really think about how to spread the benefits and make sure that the industry is ready for any of these sort of future events, like, the next whatever, the next COVID that hits, so that it won't be as traumatic to the system. But you can also see there's such a broad range of possibilities for you to get into. You could see, focus on culture, focus on the wildlife, the history of different places, what makes things special. One of the areas that is really starting to gain more and more growth is that bringing in of the community perspective and allowing communities more say in how we do tourism and hospitality. In the past, when we talked about what was a DMO, things like your Tourism Australia and that, the M really just spoke to marketing. How can we bring more people? But through education, through understanding, through research, we've really shifted that perspective to a destination management organization where we're really trying to better understand and do a much better job of seeing all those interactions and how tourism can really make a difference in these global economies. So at that, kind of, I guess, play it back to Christy, but also to open the floor to any questions that people might have about the programs that we have at the School of Tourism and Hospitality Management, or questions in general about about the industry and opportunities and tourism and hospitality in general.
Thank you so much, Eugene. That was really inspiring to hear a more hopeful take on the tourism industry, and I loved those videos, so we shared those in the chat box there. And yes, like Eugene said, if you have any questions about what we just talked about, feel free to pop them in the chat box now and we will get to them. You'll see we do have our slide up here for our enrollment services. So Rhonda White, who's been popping some helpful links and comments into the chat box, is one example of our enrollment team, but we have a whole team here if you do have any questions about what our programs look like. And I did see one question related to our programming. Kingsley has asked, does Royal Roads have any plans in the future to have a master's degree program in hospitality management? Or I guess because we do have our Master's of Arts of Tourism Management, how does that program kind of speak to that side of things as well, potentially?
Right. What we find, actually, our Master of Arts in Tourism Management, while it says tourism management, we really cover the whole basis of tourism and hospitality management. So we get a lot of people in the Master of Arts program that will go into either hotels or the tourism industry. Within the industry, there's sometimes a difference in the language or how things are described. I'm not wanting to go too far on this, but sometimes some people view hospitality as being a part of tourism, and some people see tourism being a part of hospitality or as two separate things. The nice thing is that within that Master of Arts in Tourism Management program, we're talking about everything. So, we will dive deep into the hotel management and how it runs. We'll connect you up with people that are in the hotel industry, various managers and entrepreneurs and that sort of thing. But we also cover all of the tourism aspects. So, your destination management, your transportation system, the tour companies, everything like that. And I'm not sure if you saw it or not, but if you take a look at where, maybe I can just quickly shoot back a couple of slides, you can see that many of the people that we've got that have graduated through the system, Island Lake Lodge, Fairmont Hotel. So we do have students that go through the Master of Arts program and go through various, or end up in the hospitality industry in some of the very large chains, hotel chains around the world. So hopefully that answers your question.
Perfect. And I also did just pop a link in the chat box to a webinar we did a little while ago that was a panel session with some of our graduate students. So if you're curious to hear a little bit more about what they're up to in their careers and the program in general, that will be a great place for you to check out. And I don't see any other questions in the chat box, but I may ask a question since we have a minute here. You talked a lot about, obviously, the hopeful to like using this time to make changes in the tourism industry and come back in a really thoughtful way. And I've been really inspired to see things like, I believe they've now banned cruise ships for coming right into the port in Venice, which I think seems like a good change considering it's an ancient sinking city and things like that are like using this time to think about the sustainability aspect of tourism and things like that. Has there been any changes in particular that have really inspired you or have made you hopeful for the future?
Definitely. Yeah, there's been quite a few changes that are starting to occur in the industry when it comes to, I guess, re-looking or looking at how tourism can be done better. You saw some of the data talking about, people wanting to stay at locations a little bit longer. So what we're seeing in the industry, both from the consumer side, but also from the industry side of, trying to reduce those sort of quick stay, the weekend getaways so that, you don't have this huge impact and then these quiet periods, trying to spread out that sort of impact. The other thing that, I guess has been really heartening is, again, more involvement of the local community and the local community perspective on things. So in the past, many in the industry might not have really worried or cared about how the community felt about the industry. And this really came home to many in the industry through COVID because some of the industry had been, I guess, to be honest, neglecting the local markets. And suddenly they were having to rely on the local markets. And I think what we're going to see now and into the future is a real focus on, how can we better connect in and how can we better work with our local communities. So it's more of an integrated system as opposed to this thing over on the side that, this is our tourism industry. Don't bother us, we won't bother you sort of aspect. So much more on that. Few of the other things, like I mentioned, is this understanding or this realization of just how much of a carbon footprint the industry has. Many locations, what they've discovered through this, forced, I call it forced hibernation of the industry is, watching streams clear up, watching wildlife come back and things like that. And this realization, both from the local communities, but also from industry going, we really like this. We like this sort of quiet. So we're going to focus more on trying to create and provide quality experiences and a little less focus on the quantity. So there's a bit of a push in the industry to try to go beyond, in the past, we always measured our success in the industry based on, we've got, 10% more people coming to this destination, or, here's our big numbers. And there's a real push within the industry and definitely within the academics to go, okay, that's nice, but let's think beyond just pure numbers. Let's think about what was the impact socially and environmentally and economically, and maybe a few less people, but maybe get a little more value out of that experience and create a more long-term, more sustainable industry. So hopefully that kind of answers some of those questions.
Yes, absolutely. And that really is like such an encouraging view of where the tourism industry is going and what it can be too. So really inspired by everything that you shared today, Eugene. Thank you so much again. And with that, I think we're nearing the end of our session for today. Till then, Eugene, is there any other final words you'd like to share before we close out for today?
I guess last words is that I'm really hopeful for the industry and the possibilities. Those of you that are even kind of slightly on the fence about whether or not you should get into the industry, go for it. Like I said, I've been doing this since I was 15 years old, and I have absolutely no regrets. Um, the experiences that you can go through and that you can have are definitely, well, as Royal Roads likes to say, life changing. So, and the people that you'll meet, the places you'll go in the industry are definitely worth it.
Thanks so much. And thank you everybody for joining us again. We'll be taking a quick break. So take a stretch, go grab some water, anything you need to do, and we'll be joining you again in the next 10 minutes. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming.